What's up, guys? Thanks a lot for tuning into another one of my videos. My name is Min Rao. Welcome to my YouTube channel if this is your first time. And based on the topic, we're going to be discussing, how to go about breaking the negative patterns that are in your life. If this is the first video you're checking out, I would highly encourage you to go back and to watch the last maybe the last two previous videos, starting with the one that is titled the lies that you've been taught about who you are, and then the following video which speaks about the hidden programming that's running your life. And these videos kind of help to build up a storyline around you being able to identify and connect with a deeper sense of self, which is truly important on your journey towards healing, towards self-realization, and ultimately towards being able to be in a healthier space mentally and spiritually to address the patterns that we'll discuss, and also to truly be able to appreciate the whole process behind what I'll be discussing. So if you haven't watched those videos, please go ahead and watch those videos. I'll do my best to maybe link those in the description. But thank you for being here, and as always, I look forward to sharing. I look forward to holding space with you in this way, to share what is on my heart. And I do trust really sincerely that whatever I do share resonates with you in some way, and that you can find the information applicable to your life, um, or even to someone else's life who you think whatever you're hearing could be applicable to. You could share the video, of course. And on that note, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, be sure to subscribe, be sure to like the video, and yeah. So let's dive right in. You know, I I can speak a lot on this because I've done a lot of work myself, in my own life, and like I've acknowledged in the previous videos, it is important for us to understand that the way that we're living our lives through our thoughts, our habits, and the actions that we're taking, they all span from belief systems and different mental patterns that we've developed over the years throughout our lives. And for me, I've struggled with a lot of different things, if I'm being transparent. And it's taken me many years to overcome bit by bit different thought patterns that have negatively impacted my life. And saying this to say, it does take time, guys. This is not a a quick fix scenario, and it is important that even for myself, I recognize that this is an ongoing process. And I say this because even as I go through my journey of healing and holding space for greater self-awareness, it's like as I'm able to resolve certain issues, then there's like more space or more room for me to tackle bigger issues that were behind those other issues. So it's like you clear one thing and then another thing comes to your awareness, and it's really an ongoing process, you know. So in really diving deep, you want to be able to really take full accountability for your life and to begin looking into your life, um, you know, as introspectively as you can, like really taking time out to really understand and analyze like what's really going on. And sometimes for some people who have some sense of awareness around their life, you can begin to identify certain patterns. Now, when I say certain patterns, I'm referring to certain events that tend to happen over and over in your life. For example, the easiest thing that comes to mind is relationships, the type of people who you tend to attract into your life, or the type of people who you tend to choose. The reason why they are coming into your life, of course, they're based on the choices that you're making, and the choices that you're making stem from the beliefs that you carry around who is that ideal partner for you, what is attractive to you. And and so, separate from relationships, like it can be, you know things about finances. It can be different patterns around self-love or things with your family. But it does become important for you to identify whatever those patterns that you're observing in your lives are, like what keeps happening. You know, no matter what direction you turn, the same cycle of events seems to happen. And once you start paying attention to those patterns, right, the first phase of all of this is then really becoming aware. And so once you become aware, then you can, not that it's half of the battle, but that's a big leg up on being able to address the core issues that you're going through. Because for a lot of people, you will realize that if you're observing their lives, from the outside looking at their lives, like, you know, you might have friends who are, they keep going through the same things, and you keep telling them, well, hey, you know, maybe if you change this or change that. But if they can't see it, you might be saying all that, but if they can't see it, it then becomes really hard for them to make those changes. So if you're unaware, then really you're not going to be able to change it. It's like I said, like being this encouraging friend who, on the outside, it's easier for you to identify sometimes like what is going on, but the person who's in the actual situation or scenario, they tend not to be able to see so clearly like what's happening, or like what am I doing wrong, like. And then when you're telling them, it's like, even though you're telling them because they can't see it for themselves, then that encouragement or advice kind of gets cast to the side because they just really can't comprehend it at that time. So facilitating this essence of becoming more self-aware is truly important. And that's why I speak so highly about spending time to meditate and spending time to do particular things that help you to become more self-aware, to do particular things that help you to regulate your nervous system, regulate your body in such a way that you're in a more relaxed state of mind, like you're out of survival mode, so your body is more in a receptive state to then be able to be more moldable in a way, you know what I mean? So yeah, so the first aspect of this journey of breaking these hidden patterns is to become aware of the patterns. After you become aware of the pattern and you identify, you know you can kind of identify the cycles, then you really want to move into specifically identifying what that pattern is, like what the pattern is and what beliefs are those patterns that you're experiencing tied to. So, as I had used the example before about relationships, like why are you attracting this particular person, why, or type of personality, why you keep having the same challenges around finances. They all stem to these patterns that you're experiencing, all are tied to different beliefs. And in spending the time to journal, and that's another big part of this whole process, spending the time to really journal and write down like the different things that are taking place in your life. And over time, if you reflect on what you've written in your journal, sometimes it helps to really ping things down. So you become aware, you identify the pattern, you identify the beliefs tied to the patterns that you're experiencing, and then following that, you're able to do that deep dive by going to the root of the belief. And a lot of times, like I've mentioned before, the root causes stem from naturally the subconscious patterns that we're carrying, but these are all tied to the childhood experiences, the traumas that we've experienced, the things learned throughout childhood, whether at school, whether with friends, or all these different phases of development where we're more impressionable. Like, those are some of the key times that we can link or go back to help us then identify core or root causes to these beliefs that we carry, which then create our perception. It then creates the structure or the framework that we use to make our decisions. So you become aware, you identify the patterns, and you connect the belief to that pattern. And in so doing, you find a way to connect to the root core behind why why is it that I'm carrying this thought around this particular issue or this particular challenge. Like, what are the emotions that are coming up from it, and When in my life did this really become an issue, or did this really, you know, um, create this whole mindset around this, and as you as you begin to have those reflective thoughts bit by bit, it will become clearer and clearer. And again, as you're spending time to meditate more and to do these different practices that help you to become more relaxed, you facilitate a safe space for your nervous system, for your body, for your mind to be more to be in more harmony, to facilitate more clarity being brought to you. Because the thing is, a lot of times, especially nowadays, we're constantly distracted by work, by social media, by the social sphere, and all these different things, and we Netflix and chill and all these things, and we don't really spend so much time feeding our inner self, or creating that alignment with our inner self, so that we can gain the clarity that we want. So the more you spend time facilitating that bond and that safety between yourself, then the easier it is for your intuition to speak more loudly to you. At the end of the day, it's not that you're not getting these nudges, but it's kind of like you're turning a blind eye to those nudges because you haven't connected the dots as yet. So that information isn't really relevant to you until you become more aware. So yeah, once you connect to that root cause, a lot of the times it was maybe a parent speaking to you a certain way, or you observing certain things with your parents, and you adopted the mentality that they had around the finances or relationships and different things like that. Now, in attaching the pattern to the belief and then to the root cause, there is going to be that emotional charge, like I was mentioning before, that you start to question, like, what are the emotions being evoked by these particular patterns and beliefs, or by that root cause that allowed this to be what it is for you. And once you start to get to that place of getting comfortable with yourself, to connect to the emotions around that event that took place, or the trauma that took place, or the conversation that took place that led to these feelings, that led to these patterns, you have to again facilitate a place for, in a way, it's like dissolving the emotional charge around the situation. And this is where a very like profound capacity that we have as humans kind of comes in, because you're able to go within your own mind. Whether through meditation or visualization, or just taking time to go back to the situation and say, for example, and this in this context, if we're looking at it from a childhood issue that really caused this is where inner child work, or you know inner child healing practices come into play. Because it's like you really have to understand that when you made these decisions, or you created these emotional charges, no one is saying that it was wrong to carry a certain mindset towards things then. But what you have to know, come to grips with, is the fact that now that you're better able to, like, fully comprehend, emotionally, psychologically, physically, what took place, you can now, in a way, take a more healthy approach towards it, in that instead of allowing it to be something that breaks you or shifts you emotionally or psychologically, you hold space for it in such a way that it's more like you're looking at it as an event that took place in your life, but you can give yourself the love that you needed in that moment, or um in a way, like, give it the more healthier interpretation, or give yourself what you needed in that moment that you weren't able to get, to help you kind of heal through the emotional charge that you have on it. So so generally speaking, like, whether it's an emotional charge that's tied to it or not, for example, for myself, like, one of the things that I had to do for myself is to spend some time visualizing and meditating on the issues I had, say, around my father. My father was not in my life, um, and so that affected me, of course. And for many people, we'll link that type of an experience with not feeling like you're accepted, not feeling like you're worthy. And so what you might end up having to do is to spend time with yourself to reaffirm the fact that you're worthy, to go back into your mind through visualization, and to embrace yourself as a child, and to say, hey, you're loved, you're worthy, you're accepted. And your father, for example, not being there does not reflect any of those negative thoughts, right? But know that as a being here in this moment, and at that time in your life as a child, you were always accepted, you know, you were always loved. And just feeding yourself in that way to, in a way, reverse the effect of the negative thoughts that you carried around those issues. And that then can help to facilitate a healthier emotional state around the issue. And psychologically, as well, you create a lot more mental harmony around these different topics. But you then have to facilitate that healing process for yourself. And of course, a lot of people, might go to therapy to dig deeper into these things, to then be able to get that other perspective, or to think about things differently and all that. But and I advocate that, of course. But in this video, in this context, I'm just saying also, to supplement that, if you're already doing that, or if you're not, then you can really go within yourself and begin that process of visualizing and creating that space within your mind to facilitate the healing. And in so doing, it will automatically lead you to rewriting your story. And this is another aspect of the profoundness of this whole process, is that you then can rewrite your story to to carry with it the feelings, the energy, the emotions that you want, to create a healthier and a much safer space for you. And by reworking those neurological pathways in your mind, it sets forward a different future, a different perspective, that again, you will still have to be held accountable for, you know manifesting a more positive outcome through the choices that you make, through the the practices that you carry forward from this. So it's not like a quick fix that you recognize these things and you just tomorrow just all of a sudden become perfect. No. Again, because you're rewiring your nervous system in a way, or your those neurological pathways, it does take consistent practice and consistent thoughts and feelings to facilitate this new story that you've created around the past. The past is the past, and you have the power to to feed the past with what will fuel you for a better outcome, through better patterns, better habits, better thoughts, which create the external world that you're living. And um, and so this framework, I know it's a bit lengthy in a way, but this framework, if you truly follow it, by becoming aware, by identifying the patterns, by connecting the patterns to the belief systems and the root cause around why it is that you're thinking the way that you're thinking, to then create the decisions and external reality that you're creating, right? To then be able to heal the emotional charges affiliated with those root causes. And by so doing, you create now a safe space for you to be able to rewrite your story, and then consistently on a day-to-day basis affirm what it is that you're working on, through affirmative words. If you want to add visualization to that, do that. And also through the actions and the decisions that you make on a daily basis will further facilitate this new way of thinking, right? Because what you have to understand also is that, as we spoke about the hidden programs running your life, your subconscious mind does not interpret things based on good or bad. So even though you might be looking at it and you might be wondering, why would your subconscious allow things to be this way if it's not helping you at this phase of your life? And that's where you have to come to the understanding that scientifically it is known that your subconscious mind is not there thinking in terms of good or bad. It's just thinking, it's just thinking objectively in terms of what you're feeding it, and it's just based in the programming based on what you give it and what the emotional charges that you feed into your mind. So that is why it is important, from my previous, videos way before, about the whole theme of decolonizing your mind. You have to understand that whatever you're feeding your mind is what then will dictate how you think, how you perceive, and um, you know, further on, um, inspire the actions and habits that you then create from that perception. So by decolonizing the mind and understanding the programmings that are being run in the background of your mind in your individual life, you take back control of your reality. And that is a part of the main mission. One of the main missions I have with creating the content that I have right now is to allow you to retain your power. And you have, as an individual, as a spiritual being here, have to realize and acknowledge that a lot of what is happening in the external world, it a lot of the times tend to put you in a powerless position where your attention is being taken, your what is going through your mind, all of those things are being heavily manipulated by what you're seeing on the media, by what you're listening to, by what you're watching. And so there's this, I guess, war for your mind that you have to become aware of. And you then have to consciously choose, like, what am I creating based on what I have going on internally? And it also ties into the theme of becoming a conscious creator. That is why it is important to me to elaborate on these different topics, because we all have the capacity to be conscious creators and not just be manipulated based on other people's agendas, right? So I hope you find this video like super helpful. I don't want to make it super long-winded. I know, like, once I start going, I start going. So I'll stick a pin right here. But definitely spend some time to look into your own life, and to, if you haven't already, begin journaling and really analyzing things that have been taking place for years in your life that you're really having to wonder, like, why is this truly happening? And allow your intuition to really bring these things um, forward for you, and to bring you the clarity that you need to then be able to overcome. And like I said, this is not a it's not a quick fix, and you have to understand that it's also an ongoing journey. And with that being said, give yourself grace, give yourself the patience that it deserves, and give yourself the love that it deserves. I know sometimes when we're in these situations that we may end up looking externally for the validation, the affirmation, and the love in order to be strong. But you really have to give yourself that love, and to give yourself truly what is needed to overcome. I know videos like this and others from other people who are creating content around these same themes, serve as like a nudges to help you push forward into that space. But know that you have the strength, know that you are fully capable, and that you are a powerful being who can, you know, step into the path of becoming a conscious creator, to truly consciously create what you want to see in your life, um, and in the broader world. We have that power, and I hope that my content will continue to inspire actions in that direction. And yeah, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear from you. If you have, any thoughts or anything that you'd like to share, go ahead and drop it in the comments. You can also, shoot me any topics that you'd want me to go over, at my email, which is rawconsciousness@gmail.com. That's going to be in the description. But I'd love to have dialogue with you guys. Send me anything that you're curious about, that you would think would be relevant on the channel. I'd be happy to create more content on things that you find interesting as well. But yeah, I think I'll definitely be creating another video that will go over identifying some of the patterns and beliefs that are quite common amongst us, that we tend to struggle with, so that it helps you with identifying what might be going on for you. So stay tuned definitely for that video, and I extend my sincere love and gratitude to you all. And yeah, stay tuned for more, guys. So much love, enjoy your day, and see you guys on the next one.